Alright, welcome back to Liam's AP Psychology. My name is Liam Kim, a junior in Korea International School Jeju campus, also known as Shinzo Kim. And as a continuation of last week's video, I'm going to talk about some key AP Psychology vocab terms that you must know for the upcoming AP Psychology exam. So let's get started with the word babbling stage. So a babbling stage begins at about 4 months after birth, and it is the stage of speech development in which the infant spontaneously utters various sounds at first unrelated to the household language. So something like dada and baba, these words that do not really make sense but still does make a sound and still does imply something. This is what the babbling stage is. So this baby is trying to communicate something, but still, while the speech itself, it sounds really not related to the household language, it still kind of conveys a meaning. Now let's look at barbiturates. Barbiturates is the type of drugs that depress the activity of the central nervous system, reducing anxiety but impairing memory and judgment. So if you have too much barbiturates, then your anxiety level will go down for sure, but still it will be highly detrimental to your memory and judgment. So you must know which kind of drugs you're taking, and you also must know how much drugs can you take at one time in a level that is not really detrimental to your health or your life. Now let's look at basal metabolic rate. Basal metabolic rate is the body's resting state or resting rate of energy expenditure. Let's look at basic research. Basic research is a pure science that aims to increase the scientific knowledge base. Basic trust, according to Erik Erikson, is a sense that the world is predictable and trustworthy, and it is said to be formed during infancy by appropriate experiences with responsive caregivers. So when babies are going through care by their respective caregivers, such as their parents or guardians or babysitters, based on what kind of experience do they have with their responsive caregivers, the level of basic trust that this infant can build with the world and his or her or their surrounding environments is going to be determined by the really short amount of time, right? So that is why it's really important to keep infants at a really safe environment in which the baby can be cared at all times by loving parents, guardians, or babysitters. Moving on to the next word. Let's look at behavior genetics. Behavior genetics is the study of the relative power and limits of genetic and environmental influences on behavior. So it is talking about how the things that you inherit from your parents, such as your genes, your DNA, and also something that come from the nurture category, such as environmental influences while you're growing up. It is talking about how your genetics and your environmental influences really impact your behavior. So for example, if you're grown in an environment where your dad is an alcohol addict and also your dad kind of is really violent, then the child of that dad will be highly likely to be also alcoholic when they grow up and also be really violent, right? Because that's the kind of environment that they grew in, and that's the kind of, this really relates to behavioral psychology. We talked about modeling last time, right? We talked about Albert Bandura's Bobo doll experiment, in which the kids kind of model the adults around them, their behaviors, and then try to imitate them, right? So because of this kind of replication of the adult behavior, it is really important that children must be grown at environments, at safe environments in which they can be grown by really parents who aren't violent and parents who are kind of nice to their kids, so that the kids may also grow nice when they come of age in the future. Now let's look at behavior therapy. Behavior therapy is the therapy that applies learning principles to the elimination of unwanted behaviors. So through this therapy, you can get rid of your unwanted behaviors, such as ADHD could be one. So the ADHD symptoms of being like really inattentive, they can be kind of eliminated through these types of behavior therapy. And then the aforementioned kind of like violence behaviors, right? They can also be eliminated through these kind of processes. So behavior therapy is really effective in like caring for like the conditions that an individual is facing at the moment. So that's why it's really helpful for the psychological state and psychological health of some people. And let's look at behavioral medicine. This is an interdisciplinary field that integrates behavioral and medical knowledge and applies that knowledge to health and disease. So you're integrating some behavioral psychology and some medical knowledge. So, for example, like to prevent someone from being like too violent, or like to prevent someone from being like too anxious, you can combine it with your medical knowledge. So, for example, these types of drugs, it really helps kind of like down your level of, let's say, like your hormone levels or like your dopamines. Yeah, so using these types of drug knowledge and also some behavioral psychology and its symptoms, behavioral medicine enable individuals to like have a cure to a certain kind of disease or like a behavior that they want to kind of like get rid of, right? Or like get better from. Now let's look at the next word, behavioral psychology, and this will be the last word for today. Behavioral psychology is the scientific study of observable behavior and its explanation by principles of learning. So we've talked about, again, Albert Bandura's pivotal experiment that is included in the category of behavioral psychology, because that is the scientific study in which children kind of observe the behaviors of adults that they can look and learn from. And then that is a factor that really kind of impacts an individual's behavior when they grew up, or like when they are like passing through their adolescent stage, or even adults. They still tend to kind of like model others' behaviors, somebody who is older than them or somebody who is at a higher position than them, right? So it is really important for like people of all ages and all genders to really be placed in an environment where they can kind of have a model adult who is really responsible and who is really kind of not really violent, or like who is moral, right? Because that will help these individuals to like model from a better adult, and then also kind of model their good actions to improve the society. Okay, folks, so like that's the end of today's lecture, and then next time we'll come back with talking about the effects of behaviorism and some additional key terms. Good luck with your studies, and peace out.